Liebe Freundinnen und Freunde, wir protestieren heute hier dagegen, dass der Papst als Oberhaupt der katholischen Kirche eine Rede im Deutschen Bundestag hält. Und ich frage mich auch, was empfinden eigentlich die Abgeordneten, wenn Benedikt XVI. Ansichten vertritt, die mit den Rechtsprinzipien unseres Grundgesetzes unvereinbar sind?
We do live in a patriarchal society, and as far as how patriarchal societies relate to churches, I think a church, especially older churches, like the Catholic Church, is a prime example of taking power and only reserving it for men. A lot of modern societies are starting to move away from patriarchy and making it so that power is more accessible to many other groups of people, but not completely. I see us moving there, but time moves very slowly, and it's going to take a while before everybody is going to have access to that power, and it takes struggle, and it takes a lot of fighting to even get there.
One of the most effective ways to control peoples is to control their sexuality, and so to make people feel that there's something really bad about their sexuality and about their desire is a way to help keep people in the noose. I call it tribal conditioning because it's the collective unconscious which carries these beliefs that there is a split between the sacred and the sexual, and that split is very strongly carried by the mythology of the Garden of Eden. And so the image of the goddess, which was the snake, now becomes the image of the devil. And so as women especially, we become very suspicious of our desire and our sexuality.
Porque assim, na verdade o sexo ele sempre foi proibido. Por quê? Porque ele é uma grande... se você estiver bem, você não precisa ir na igreja. Se você estiver bem, você não precisa votar no próximo político. Você já está bem, porra. Você já está bem, você vai fazer o seu redor bem ali e isso vai se proliferar. Agora, por que você vai na igreja e por que você vai votar no próximo político? Porque ele está terceirizando sua felicidade. Né? Então, e outra, por que a repressão sexual sempre houve? Porque se você começa a gozar, ficar feliz, você não vai na igreja, você vai ficar transando, pô. Né? Vai na igreja, tu tá o padre falando merda,
você não vai
sabe? Meu Deus, caralho. Você não vai na igreja, meu Deus, pô.
It was in 1642 Council at Trent, within, I'm pretty sure, the Catholic Church. They held this meeting and they started figuring out how they were going to code and organize sins. And when they came to talking about sexual sins, they divided them into two categories. And you had venial sexual sins and mortal sexual sins. Venial sexual sins were like a slap on the wrist. No big, like you say some prayers, you count on your rosary, you're all good. Mortal sexual sins, you go to hell. And how they divided them were venial sexual sins, the things that were a slap on the wrist, were rape, incest, and adultery. Mortal sexual sins, which you could go to hell for, or I think possibly in some areas you could potentially get killed for it. It was homosexuality, masturbation, and birth control. And the big difference between these two is rape, incest, adultery, babies can happen. But with masturbation, with any kind of birth control, with homosexuality, you're not going to have babies. And so what you're looking at is a mechanism of social control.
I do think that, you know, post-sexual revolution, post-civil rights, post-gay rights, and I don't mean post in the like sort of theoretical post, I mean like time post, that we are living in a time where stuff is happening. And I think we see the reaction to this by a lot of people who are in power currently, mostly heterosexual white Christian men, who are freaking out and who are grasping for straws to make sure that women and brown people and queer people don't get their rights and don't get to live freely. But we're fighting, and they're losing, and they're scared.
Frau mit einer Frau unkeusch streift, soll man sie, und jetzt kommt was ich entsetzlich finde, der allgemeinen Gewohnheit nach, denn es waren immerhin schon über 1000 Jahre, dass man das machte, mit dem Feuer vom Leben zum Tod richten. Artikel 116. Die Sexualfeindlichkeit der Kirche hat noch weitere dramatische Auswirkungen. Sie führt zu widerwärtigen sexuellen Verirrungen. Die Verbrechen, die von zwangsentsexualisierten Priestern an Kindern und Jugendlichen geschahen und noch geschehen, dies unaussprechliche Leid der wehrlosen Betroffenen schreit zum Himmel. Und Papst Benedikt ist der größte Vertuscher dieser Verbrechen.
A lei diz que você é criminoso. A igreja diz que você é um pecador. E você, o que tem a dizer? Eu não sou um criminoso nem um pecador. Sou eu, que nem eu digo, eu sou assim. Deus
não por ser assim, né? Se fosse, seria
por
sentido.
Eu vejo, assim, por conta dos meus pacientes, o quanto a igreja, e aí independe de qual seja, quanto a igreja é massacrante.
Nossa, católica, sim.
Católica, evangélica.
Cristã em geral, né?
Cristã em geral.
Não, a banda cristã não entra muito nessas, assim.
Me soa uma hipocrisia muito grande, sabe? Uma coisa muito assim, você prega uma coisa e faz outra.
My fears weren't that I was going to go to hell, because I didn't really have a concept of what that would entail.
Totally. It's really interesting because I definitely was one of those kids who did go to church every single Sunday. So it's like interesting because like I feel like I got those messages. Like I've heard like ministers and pastors say that like being gay means you're going to hell. Yeah. And that if you have gay thoughts, you're going to hell. And to like instill that fear into like their sermons and into the like audience. So I could totally see how like I, as a kid, being so scared, coming back and telling like the kids around me that like, oh my God, like if we do these things, we're going to hell. Yeah. And like, it's so crazy because like you didn't grow up in a church like I did. Yeah, we have like really like, I don't think our fears are very far away from each other. So it's like crazy how like religion in particular could like still penetrate like the social unconscious without even like people actively participating in it. It's like so like we're so deep in it, like you know, you don't even have to attend, and it's like in you.
So you might want to check out the ex-gay ministries. I'm sure that there are some of them in California, and it's this religious movement that if you have homosexual urges, they're only urges, and there's nothing natural about what you're feeling, and it's something that you need to battle. And so you can go to an ex-gay ministry, and they will help you become what they call an ex-gay, that you're no longer gay. But the thing about this is that a lot of the times it doesn't end up working. And you hear from a lot of women who were locked in these marriages where their husbands were gay, but the church was telling them, you just need to battle against this, and you know, you'll eventually overcome this. That it's a spiritual matter, not something of an innate desire. And these women would speak very bitterly about being asked to stay within these marriages. I think there's a movement now for the ex-gays, so people who went through the ministry and came out and decided that it doesn't work anyway, and so now they're speaking out against it. That you don't have to look at any complicated relationships about culture or have any deep appreciation or understanding for biology. You can just say that this thing, because it doesn't fit my worldview, is evil and it is from the devil, and therefore it should not exist, and we will do everything we can to stamp it out because it's unnatural and it's an aberration. Even if it's something that you find in nature everywhere.
Hier gibt's noch ein Bedürfnis, etwas mitzuteilen. An den Papst direkt, ne? Ja, gerne. Es gibt eine christliche Einsicht, die heißt, was nicht angenommen ist, ist nicht erlöst. Das heißt, ich muss ich selber sein. Deswegen sage ich, Josef, nimm deine Sexualität an, welche es auch immer ist, denn sie ist vom Heiligen Geist. Ja!
There's a lot of mythologies that have gone through this in humanity for a long, long time, you know, like lots of mythologies and lots of constructions, and each one thinks that they're the absolute truth. But I think we all have to be wise and say, when it comes down to it, is this leading us in a good direction or is it leading us in a bad direction to believe these things or to hold these truths? And it seems apparent to me that the belief in like some sort of hell or punishment or some God that supposedly loves us and then punishes us, it's so asinine, and I don't see it doing anything good for our culture and in this world at all. And I can't believe in the 21st century that like there's still such force in a really archaic set of beliefs. There's so many ways to see the world, and there's so many ways to see life, and we're born into our societies and we're born into our families, and we're given certain beliefs, and beliefs are handed down to us. And I think every human being needs to really ask themselves, do these beliefs help me be a better person, be non-judgmental, be caring, take care of myself, take care of the world around me, or do they not? And to me, any belief in some sort of hell and punishment and condemnation and judgment and separation, which is what this question sort of alludes to, seems like it's really unhealthy for humanity. So no, I don't believe in one hell.